Start thinking about this as a first aid trainer. I ended up with a group of people I'm training to be first aiders. They can do the basic first aid, putting pads on people, looking after people, taking a look at vital signs of inflation, pulling breathing rates and pulses. But what information, how do we hand over to the emergency services? I think for us to train our first aiders to do that is really quite important, and that's the kind of thing we're going to start to chat about with Alistair.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Alistair. My day job is I'm a paediatrician, so I look after children, so I do all the scary ones that you I am a team member of a mountain rescue team called the Valley Search and Rescue. I've got 2 team members here. There's a number of search and rescue people in the organisation in the audience today. But I'm also a medical director for all the teams across the country. I also do cave rescue as well with the cave rescue organisation. Water rescue, do a bit of cycling occasionally. So what we're going to talk about is a little bit about the structure of Mountain Rescue England and Wales and how we fit into the pre-hospital emergency services. The anatomy of a rescue, what information we need, how we can get to you, how can we consult you, how can you pass information to us, and that's where the ethane and ATMIS come in. And then looking after yourself and your casualty, because it's really important in our environment and it's probably going to save their life. So, MREW, Mountain Rescue England and Wales, sits in under UK SAR, which is the UK Search and Rescue Organisation, with a number of different organisations: Coast Guard, Cave Rescue, Scottish Mountain Rescue, lifeboats, surf life-saving, lowland rescue, independent lifeboats. There's a whole lot of other people there, covering the whole of the UK with search and rescue, and these are majority, apart from Coast Guard, volunteer organisations. MREW is an umbrella organisation covering the 49 teams across England and Wales. Each team is its own charity, it has its own patch, it does its own fundraising. We are just a provider of information and governance at a national level to one support to the team. And we have 3,000 volunteer professionals. These people are, and ourselves included, on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All do it for free, all will leave home and families to go and rescue somebody in need. We have a variety of capabilities. We do steep ground rescue, water rescue, rescue in any remote environment. And when we say remote environment, that might just be away from a road. We've rescued people in city parks in our team. Town parks, 200 metres from the ambulance, but it was too hard to get a stretcher there. We do search, so with our search dogs, and also cave rescue as well. This is sort of the things we come across in the injuries. So this was 22 data, I think. So we had 3,629 call-outs. For which we deployed in just short of 2,800. There were about 3 days in that year that a team wasn't out somewhere rescuing somebody from Mountain Rescue in Wales. Most of them, funnily enough, were in the summer and were mostly busy at the weekends. If you looked at the teams like Llanberis, they had 300 call-outs last year. They broke their record. We tend to do mostly casualties, but about 20% are what are called missing people, so people with dementia, despondent, lost, and so there's our search capability. And because of our environment, the majority of our injuries are lower limb, so ankle, foot, lower limb, falls, trips. But then we go up to full body trauma and body recovery. We have seen, this is some data I pulled from our national database, and this is sort of I was just looking at pre, peri and post-pandemic, just to see if there have been some changes in our numbers, because teams got real changes in what they were attending. What we have seen is an increase in the serious incidents that we're attending, so the severity of what we're going to is increasing significantly at the moment. So, how is our first aid covered within our organisation? So we expect all team members to have basic life support, CPR, airway management, simple life-saving strategies. We are currently in the process of developing, and it should be completed by the end of this year, a remote rescue first aid qualification which is an 16-hour equivalent of the outdoor first aid qualification, which is a little bit more specific to our environment. We then have the remote rescue medical technicians. This is the new name for those of you that are CAS carers. This used to be CAS care. We are now remote rescue medical technicians. There's 1,000 of those in our organisation. That is 40 plus hours of training, and they provide the care for probably 98, 99% of the casualties that we go to. That is, they can do some amazing things. We've had hypothermic arrests in our team that have been managed purely by our CAS carers and successfully resuscitated. We then have a few extended CAS care skills, which are certain drugs and certain procedures, such as R-gels and intravenous access. And then I'm up at the top here on the HCPs bit. I don't get hands-on very often. I get slapped if I get too close to a casualty. But we're here to do the training, and we're here to do the support for our CAS carers. So I'm much keener to get a CAS care in there, or medical technician, and I will support them. I'll come and write the CAS card for them and give them a few prompts. So yeah, 1,000 volunteers. If you're interested, if you know about the Faculty of Pre-Hospital Care, CAS care sits about a level D. So it's equivalent to an emergency medical technician, which is why we've changed the name so we can communicate with other services. But we have prescription-only medications, a variety of medications, asthma, cardiac, MI treatment, pain relief, antiemetics, and uniquely in the world we have controlled drugs access as well. So there's a unique licence that allows non-healthcare professionals to deliver advanced pain relief to our casualties in our environment, because nobody else can. Because nobody else can get to them. And actually, going back to the Manchester bombing, now we use our data of fentanyl lozenges to look at fentanyl lozenges for major incidents, and that's going to be what's used for major incidents in the future, because we've used fentanyl lozenges for 10, 15 years safely. And we have some specialist expertise in hypothermia and things. So, how to call us out? 999, ask for the police, and ask for mountain rescue. That will work in most of the big mountain areas, because that's what they usually go to. We sit under police. Some police areas aren't quite as used to that, so they may get a little bit confused, but you need to ask for us, and they should be able to call us out. If you ask for the ambulance, some areas the ambulance will either put through to the police, or the ambulance in, say, my area in Yorkshire, we will be called directly by our ambulance service. So sometimes areas policing, we will get to that. If you can't phone, you might be able to text. Text requires a lot less data. So if the QR code takes you to some information about how to sign up to the 999 text service, you have to have registered your phone first. So you text register to 999 and it comes back saying, do you want to register? You say yes. And then your phone number is registered. Therefore, if you're in a place where there's no reception or minimal reception, your phone might be able to get a text message out, even if you can't talk. So definitely worth doing, even for normal life stuff. Mountain rescue is split up into said 49 teams. We all have our own areas. My team's this area in here, covering Bradford and Leeds. Neighbouring teams, Home Valley, Rosendale and Pendle. So you don't need to remember any of that. The ambulance services know from your location which team to send out and which to contact. They do get it wrong. We do get occasionally sent to, but we'll pass it on within the organisation. The information we need fits into Ethane, and you can all download the Jessup app for free, and this Ethane is in there, and it will help you create that information. You can type the bits into the app, and it will help you find some of the information as well. So that's what we need in that initial information. So, exact location. We want to know exactly where you are. How many people can read a map and give me a 10-figure grid reference? Not enough. Okay. In the middle of the night, in the wind. So, there's some tools to help you. If you have OS Maps or OS Locate, it will give you a grid reference. It will give you a 10-figure grid reference. Straight on the app, and the app is free. You can get the non-OS maps for free, but you need to register, so that will give you the information. The Jessup app will also give you a 10-figure grid reference. You now all know the grid reference of my house. So the JESIP app will give you, just click grid reference, it will give you a grid reference. A little word about what 3 words. That's the ambulance service love what 3 words, and it works really well in towns and cities. It works less well in the remote environment, partly because of the sort of speed of update of your phone location, partly there's problems with plural words, you know, spelling, that sort of things. Like we've had jobs in Alaska and Brazil, which you couldn't go to. So, you know, it can put you a long, long way off. And we've been, you know, it's been hundreds of meters out. So regardless of what information you provide us, ideally you give us a 10-figure grid reference or an 8-figure grid reference, we will still check to find where your location is. So this is how teams are called out. This is a cockpit. This is our front screen. So there's a thing called SAR call. So the message from the ambulance service will say, call out from ambulance service. They've given us a what 3 words, happy days. 33-year-old male with chest pains. Our system will convert that into a grid reference for us. It will also find similar areas on those words as well. So it will take the fell, onion, among and find things that are similar, and it will give us options around our environment as well. So it's given us the grid reference, and we've actually got an update from the ambulance service then. We will then try and find your location. We will ping your phone. We will send you a message, and the message says, this is search and rescue. Click this link now to locate you and enable phone GPS. If you click that link, it will take you, and you say, this is my location. It will then send back to our system your grid reference, and it will tell us within how far a range that grid reference is out. So regardless of what you've provided, we'll always double check it generally as well. So please respond. We're not asking for feedback yet. People have done that, but it will then plot it on our map for us as well, so we don't have to think about that as well. So really useful. So our phone find technology and SAR technology is really useful. If you haven't got a location, you don't know where you are, we're going to have to find you. And we've got a variety of tools in to help us find you. We have a lot of search-trained managers within the organisation, in every team, and who can arrange a search. This was a search for, I think it was a bloke in a car actually. And you can see that this was all the blue or purple lines are where people travelled around that between about midnight and 6 a.m. looking for this vehicle. We eventually found him in some garden. That's quite how we got there. This was a major, we have lots and lots of people. This was a major multi-team search. This involved, I think, about 160 volunteers searching for a chap that went missing walking on Great Whernside in the Dales. Over about a 3 or 4 day, I think it was a week before we found him. And then we have our search dogs, and they're always quite cute. But they will air scent find you. So if you've got your rough location, we can then come and find you and with our technique. So don't worry about having an exact location. We then want to know what type of incident it is, some of the hazards and what they access. You're on scene, we can phone you and get some of this information. This is going to tailor what we carry out the vehicle, but also what sort of other resources we might call on. So the types of things we need to know, is it on a cliff edge? You know, do we need to think about getting helicopters in, to think about extraction? So the type of injury as well, type of instance, this is a fall, climber who's fall, a spinal injury and needed helicopter evacuation. Is it in a nice field of bluebells? Do we need our antihistamines with us? No, this is for a calendar. But, you know, is it a safe location? What's the way in and out? Is there a track in that's really good for coming in? We know our areas really well. Is it somewhere deep down the bottom of the valley near a river edge? You know, is it in the middle of winter in a blizzard? What's it like on scene? Because where we're sat in the valley is very different to the top of the hill. So it just gives us a bit more information on our pre-planning and getting people there, but also getting other resource there as well. Is it underground? Is it somewhere really horrible? This was OFD rescue. Took 300 volunteers to get somebody out, 54 hours to get into the surface. Is it in the middle of a river? Do we need our water technicians with us? Is it at the top of a cliff? Do we need our road technicians? Do we need to get helicopters in, thinking about speed and access and temperature? Do we need to think about that? So we'll make those decisions, but the more information we can get as part of that E-thing, the easier it is for us at control before we deploy on the hill. So we've got our exact location, we know what type of incident, hazards, number and severity. We've got a 10-second triage tool if it's a balloon that's crashed or some multiple casualties. Please provide that information to us. And then any emergency services, so anything that you think we might need, but also we'll be thinking about what's coming as well. Then it's about protecting yourself. You're going to be a while before we get to you. We're all sat at home, painting, decorating, doing the dog, taking the dog for a walk, cooking. So it's going to take us time to get out to you. It'll be a number of hours. I deliberately put this slide on. That's me on a race. This is probably I certainly got a cold injury. I lost feeling in about 8 of my fingers for about 2 or 3 months after this. So I've certainly got some frost nip, and I got pretty close to hypothermia on this. And that was on just over the hill in the Pennines, in a 5-hour event. So I didn't look after myself. If I'd had actually any injury, I had nothing with me apart from a little foil blanket. And because the race rules was you had to have a mobile phone, I took the battery out because it's lighter. Didn't say you had to have a battery. Do as I say, not as I do. So you need to be prepared to look after yourself. You don't want to become a casualty as well whilst you're looking after this other individual. And I think if you've watched the SOS Extreme Rescues one, there's a guy on CADA who's a mountain rescue person who comes across somebody with hypothermia. They get pretty close themselves because they're looking after this person, so because the team turn up, and they then couldn't be of any use. And then you need to look after your casualty. I recommend everybody carries one of these bothy shelters. They come as 2-person, 4-person, 6-person, 8-person. They can be made really cheaply. They're not a lot of expense, but it gets really warm inside there. We manage all our casualties inside one of those. Or you can carry these things. These are our ponchos of shame. You can always tell the casualties. So they're remarkably resilient. But some sort of warm overcover, so blizzard-made tops that you can put on, so something that you can protect your casualty. If you think about your severe sort of hemorrhage, trauma casualties, any temperature below 36 degrees triples their out-of-hospital mortality. So, 36 is not that low, 37 is normal. That caver, who was major trauma, 54 hours, his temperature an hour from the surface was 35.9. So if we can manage it for 54 hours, and that's just very, very diligent thermal management. So protect yourself, protect others around you. Hypothermia is a killer, but it's also survivable as well. This chap here is a fell runner. He was running up Halls Fell in 2021. Hurt his ankle, so his mate couldn't get mobile reception, so his mate came down. He got hypothermic because fell runners don't carry very much stuff, as I've already proven. He went wandering off because of his hypothermia. It took them a while to find him. When they did find him, he was unconscious. His temperature was 15.3 degrees. At that point, before he was flown he had CPR, ongoing sort of auto pulse, flown to Newcastle, put on ECMO, rewarmed, and I met him about 2 years ago. He's got a little bit loss of sensation in his fingers, and that's it. So very, very survivable. Amazing job by the Keswick team, sorry. But hypothermia is a killer, so do get on top of it and prevent it happening. And then you've got to think about handing over to the mountain rescue team. So when we turn up, there's lots of distractions. There's the cute little doggies. And there's about 1 million people as well, often. We all turn up in a big group because we need a lot of people to carry a stretcher. So there'll be lots of people. So you need, if you're on scene, to find the person that you need to talk to. And that person, will identify themselves either as the leader or they'll be put forward as the CAS carer for you to hand over. And the handover we want, and the handover that we use to the ambulance service, and the handover that I use from the ambulance, when I'm on the ambulance jobs over to the hospital, is ATMIST. So age, time of the incident, so roughly when it happened, what was the mechanism, the types of injuries or illnesses that you found, any signs and symptoms, the progression of that patient, and any treatment that you've given and any recommendations around immediate needs. And that's, that handover will happen from whoever's on scene to us. We will do exactly the same thing to the emergency services. Emergency services will do the same thing when they get to hospital. Believe me, by the time you get to hospital, it's a completely different story. But we can only do our best. We've got to try and get that communication, and photographs and things like that are really useful information that can go to the ambulance service. And that is my rescue.